and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's September 3rd, 2020, and this is episode 52. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. New in theaters this week actually is nothing, and I forgot to include one title in my podcast last week, so my apologies for any fans of Bill and Ted, but it's Bill and Ted 3, and its official title is Bill and Ted Face the Music. So again, my apologies to any Bill and Ted fans out there. This is an interesting film because it's available in movie theaters where in markets where theaters are open. So here in Salt Lake City, theaters are open, and it's playing. But you can also get it on demand too. So options for Bill and Ted Face the Music, and it's. What the premise of this film is. Bill and Ted are now, and again, they're played by Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, but they're middle-aged dads, and they're still trying to crank out a hit song and fulfill their destiny. And also, it's time to save the world, dude. So, if you're a fan of Bill and Ted, I hear that this is just silly fun. I haven't seen it, but I hope Bill and Ted fans are enjoying it, and heaven knows we could just use a light and fun comedy now. So, Bill and Ted Face the Music is rated PG-13 by the Motion Picture Association for some language, and I'll have a link to the film's website in the podcast notes on my blog so you can see the various on-demand options if that's the route you are interested in taking. Currently in theaters are, of course, The New Mutants, and The Personal History of David Copperfield, and then TENET. And I'm going to be reviewing all three films here in just a moment. So for reviews, I'm going to review the three movies that I have most recently seen. I spent 3 of the last 4 evenings in the cinema, and it was great. Again, I felt safe in that the theaters weren't crowded. There was a lot of social distancing. They were clean. I was wearing my mask the whole time, and staying well, gratefully, and I was really happy to see some new cinema. Even though I think and all these films are quite different. So let's jump in first to The New Mutants. Now this is a horror thriller based on characters from Marvel Comics, X-Men. This is the X-Men universe, and it's made. This is a film by 20th Century Studios, so it's not. This is not fit within what we now know as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which are films by Marvel Studios, and which is Marvel's in-house movie production company. So The New Mutants also has a bit of an interesting history in that it was supposed to come out originally in 2018, and it got delayed multiple times. Partly because of the merger with the Walt Disney Company and the then 20th Century Fox Studios, which is now going by just 20th Century Studios. And there was a lot of mystery surrounding it, a lot of rumors just saying, the reason it got delayed is because it wasn't very good, or they had to do reshoots, or, et cetera, et cetera. We don't really know all the facts. Don't know if we ever will about it, but finally, of all films to be released at kind of when theaters are opening up during the pandemic, It's the New Mutants. So that's really the only reason that I went, is because it was the first new movie that I could see in the theater, and so that was, I was happy to do it, even though it wasn't necessarily my thing. It's a PG-13 horror movie, so it makes it a little calmer, but still, it's there were a lot of scares that they were trying to throw at the audience in this movie. The premise is that there are 5 of these mutants within and within the X-Men comics universe. Mutants are humans that have special powers, and the X-Men are a group that are become like use their powers to be superheroes. And kind of some of the classic X-Men are Wolverine, of course, who's got this incredible tolerance for pain, and had those horrible claws installed, but those become his weapon. And then Storm, who creates storms, that sort of thing. But these 5 teenagers, they've got these burgeoning powers, and some of them don't even know what their powers are per se, but they've been noticed by a particular group, and they've been put into a really creepy hospital. And there's a mysterious doctor there named Dr. Reyes, and she observes them and then tries to quote unquote help them. But of course, it all seems very mysterious. And then things start just going completely haywire, and all of their worst dreams are actually coming true for these 5 mutant kids. And so this movie was like the weirdest hybrid of The Breakfast Club, and then the TV series of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then of course with some X-Men thrown in. Although no X-Men, they talk about them, but none of them really showed up, which I thought was kind of a bummer. But I don't necessarily want to be too hard on this film. I didn't enjoy it mostly just because of the genre. But it's not horrible, and for it to have been delayed as many times as it was, and who knows how much work had to be done to it, or reshoots or whatever. It's not the worst film. It wasn't great, and I only gave it a 1.5 out of 5 stars. Much of that though is just because it's not a genre I enjoy, and I can't feel I can really objectively rate it. So, didn't love the New Mutants, but what I loved was going to the movie theater. It was so much fun to see something new on the big screen. So then I'm following up that with Tenet. So Tenet is just really almost the complete opposite, which is a film I've just been incredibly excited to see for months. And it's kind of been like the Hollywood bellwether of if Tenet can get into the theaters, then we know that it's safer to go back to the movies, and things are going to start to go better because we can see Tenet. Now Tenet's directed by Christopher Nolan, a very popular and reputable Hollywood director, and he directed films like Interstellar and Inception. Most recently, he directed Dunkirk. He directed The Dark Knight, Batman trilogy, and anyways, very, very good director, very technically meticulous director. But Tenet for me was just did not live up to expectations. Part of it, I think, was and it's a challenge. I think as a movie fan, or really a fan of anything, you get your expectations set pretty high, and then when it doesn't deliver, it's a bit of a downer. So I saw Tenet in an IMAX theater here in Salt Lake City, and I got to tell you, what is typically like a pleasure dome for me turned out to be like this self-imposed torture chamber. Seeing Tenet was just it just turned into be an incredibly unpleasant experience. So I'm not going to give away any of the plot, but basically it's as you've probably seen it if you've seen any of the previews or if you've heard people talk about it now that it's open. Things are moving. Time is moving forward and backward within this film. They call it inversion or being inverted, and it's in a way kind of a Christopher Nolan trope to do something pretty that's like quote unquote mind blowing. But for me, what was going on is that the first hour, I was thrilled to be back in the IMAX theater, and I think I was under my mask, I was just smiling for the first hour, even though I really didn't have necessarily a clue or couldn't really explain to you what was going on as far as the plot, and I was okay with it, letting it go. But when it really started going, and this again, technically, it's very well crafted as far as as the way that they did the forward and backward stuff, and also much of it happening at the same time. But with the combination of a really dreadful sound mix. Now, I know Christopher Nolan has been criticized in the past of having a bad sound mix. I think one of the first one that comes to mind was from the film The Dark Knight Rises. And as you may recall, the bad guy in that movie is Bane, and he has this gnarly mask on him, and is played by the actor Tom Hardy. His voice was so muffled you could hardly understand him. Well, that was going on this whole time in Tenet. So there's so much dialogue. They're all trying to explain all this stuff that's happening, but you can't understand it. Honestly, it's every single bit of dialogue was muffled with either really incredibly loud music, which I'm going to get to in a second, or just sometimes these characters are wearing a mask because the body's use of oxygen gets altered when they're getting inverted. So they're wearing these oxygen masks and talking like a lot. And the way that it was the sound mix was done is that you just you clearly can't understand them. My movie buddy that I went with, his line to me after the movie was, well, I'm not going to see that in the theater again. Or actually, I'm not going to see this movie again until I can watch it with subtitles. And I thought, yeah, let's hope that they have them. They will. In the Blu-ray or in the home theater release, because holy smokes, it was so frustrating. The other thing that was really frustrating to me, and what added to I had this about an hour in, I just started getting this incredible headache because of what was going on in the theater. The theater had not only I couldn't understand any of the talking, but they had the volume was really cranked. I joked, kind of the Spinal Tap. It was at 11, but honestly, it was so loud. And this music, if you can call it music, was so headache inducing for me. It was too bad. So the film, the score composer is Ludwig Göransson. I'm probably not pronouncing his name correctly, so my apologies. But Ludwig, he's a very reputable composer and has done some stuff that I really love. Like he was the one who wrote the soundtrack to the film Black Panther, and which is fantastic. He also did the soundtrack for the series on Disney Plus, Star Wars: The Mandalorian, which is really cool. The music in that is just fantastic. But what he wrote for Tenet is this, to me, it just sounded like an engine, like a pulsing car engine that just was like the same note over and over and just played incredibly loud. So yeah, I had a huge headache. I couldn't understand a thing that was what the dialogue was saying. And so the movie is just it's just 2.5 hours long or a little longer. But as mentioned, about the hour mark or even just halfway through it, I had basically checked out because it mostly just was turning into a survival thing. And I mean, I stayed through it. I mean, big whoop, But but it was honestly the wonderful IMAX theater that I adore became an absolute torture chamber. I really disliked this film. So I wonder if I saw it with subtitles and at a volume that was more tolerable, you'd have to put up with the music. And also, it's not going to change the story, right? The story is still the same, or whatever you can distinguish from it. Tenet has really quite an interesting cast. Just to mention, the protagonist, the lead character, and who's actually, he doesn't have a name other than the protagonist, is played by John David Washington, who is the son of Denzel Washington. Robert Pattinson plays an important role in the film. Elizabeth Debicki and Aaron Taylor Johnson are in it. And then the bad guy is played by Kenneth Branagh. And again, all the actors are terrific. It's for me, it was really the plot, and then that absolutely horrible sound mix, which I almost would recommend not seeing it in IMAX, which really goes against everything that I believe in as a moviegoer. If you want to experience Tenet, so you'll have to let me know if you go, and hopefully you have a better experience than I did seeing Tenet. I think ultimately I left disappointed, and there were so many hopes pinned on Tenet for being like the movie that was going to save the summer movie going season and whatever. Personally, I didn't think that the film was really good enough to save the summer movie season of 2020 that really never was. And again, I hope people enjoy it. I'm glad that it actually is in theaters, and we can move on. But really, too, it was a very self-indulgent film, I thought, for the director Christopher Nolan. And again, he deserves it. He's pulled in a lot of box office, and can do a vanity project or whatnot. But I sure didn't get any enjoyment out of it. So anyway, enough about that. Then for something completely different, let's talk now about the film, The Personal History of David Copperfield. Now, this is just like the complete opposite. It also opened up last weekend, and it's really a delightful art film, and based on the Charles Dickens novel, of course, it's called David Copperfield. This film is directed by Armando Iannucci, and it's just basically a modern retelling and a very stylish one of David Copperfield, and they keep it within 2 hours, and so. As these Dickensian plots are, they're very elaborate, and I thought the filmmakers did a nice job about keeping the Dickensian quality to it, but they made it into their own thing. It honestly reminded me of something that you would see on Masterpiece Theater or on PBS, and I mean that as a compliment. It's it was really nicely done, and honestly, it was like the anti-Tenet for me, because the volume was reasonable. You could understand the dialogue, and as well as understand the plot. Now, as far as the plot goes, if you haven't read the book David Copperfield, it might be a little much, and so I would suggest doing a little, maybe checking out a summary of the book somewhere online. So Wikipedia or whatever your choice would be, just so you might just get a little refresher, because a lot of stuff happens, a lot of characters get introduced, and frankly, I think probably one of them. I don't know if I necessarily give it a criticism, but it could possibly be one, in that you don't get a lot of exposition necessarily about some of these characters. They just show up, assuming that you know who they are because that you've read the book. You had to read the book in ninth grade, your ninth grade English class or whatever the case may be. But David Copperfield is played by Dev Patel, and he's terrific. And it's really a bit of an all-star cast. Peter Capaldi's in it as playing Mr. Macabre. Tilda Swinton is particularly good in it. She plays Betsy Trotwood. Mr. Dick is played really well by Hugh Laurie. And then Ben Whishaw plays Uriah Heep. Benedict Wong plays Mr. Wickfield, which I think was a cool choice. And anyway, it's a big cast, and it's I just thought it was terrific. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think I probably enjoyed it more because Tenet was so painful. So there you have it. 3 new movies, and these are probably going to be the main 3 movies, in addition to Bill and Ted Face the Music, playing during the month of September. The next big release, unless it gets pushed back, let's hope it doesn't, is Wonder Woman 1984, which is scheduled to open in early October. So let's hope that's still going to be the case. But anyway, I hope you can go to the theater and feel safe and enjoy a new movie. Classic Cinema Corner, there's an opportunity on Wednesday, September 9th, to see the classic 1980s comedy Airplane on the big screen. This movie was from 1980, and I know I've mentioned this before. It's in that it's also recently come out, so this film is celebrating its 40th anniversary, and Paramount Pictures has created this new line of Blu-ray discs they're calling Paramount Presents. I'll have a link to the online store, which is on Amazon.com. But the Airplane release looks like, as cool as the rest of them, and I'm excited to not only watch the Blu-ray, but I'm also excited to go see it on the big screen on Wednesday, September 9th. So this is part of Turner Classic Movies Big Screen Classics, which they do in conjunction with Fathom Events. I'll put a link to it in the podcast notes on my blog. But the Fathom Events stuff has just been completely messed up because of COVID. So Airplane actually screened a couple days last week, but there's a chance to see it on Wednesday, September 9th. Also on the Fathom Events site, you can look and see what other films are coming up on the schedule, unless they're a big spike in COVID numbers or something and they're going to change it at the end of this month and it's playing on September 27th, September 29th, and October 1st is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and that's really exciting. And then in October, they've got on October 11th and October 12th, they're playing Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. So, for Halloween. Anyway, so glad to see that the Turner Big Screen Classics are back on the big screen, and Airplane. Plan to see that on Wednesday, September 9th, if that's something you are interested in. Also of note is is the New York Film Festival, which is happening September 17th through October 11th. Now, I've been able to see one or two screenings in years past at the New York Film Festival. I happened to be in New York when the festival was going on, but in the years past, you had to go to New York, just to see any of these films. So this is the 58th year of the festival. It's done in conjunction with the Film at Lincoln Center group, and because of COVID, they are doing a series of what they're calling virtual screenings, where you can buy a ticket and watch a movie online. And so I'll put a link to this in the podcast notes on my blog. But I'm pretty excited to be able to attend some of the New York Film Festival from home, and they have typically a very eclectic slate of films. This year they've streamlined it into what they're calling into 5 different sections. The main slate is really the core of their programming, but they've got a current section, they're calling it, which is what they say is it traces a more complete picture of contemporary cinema with an emphasis on new and innovative forms and voices. Then they've got a spotlight section, which is sneak previews and some other special evenings going on with that. A revivals section, which they're saying connects cinema's rich past to its dynamic present through an eclectic assortment of new restorations, titles selected by the festival's filmmakers, rarities, and more. And they're going to have some talks that they're going to announce, and I think it's going to be really cool. What the other thing that they're doing is, in addition to these virtual screenings, if any of you are in the New York area, they're doing some drive-ins. So they've got 2 drive-in theaters, one in Brooklyn and one in Queens, and that's how they're going to do it. So I'm glad that they're continuing. They're still gonna have a festival, and those of us not in the New York area actually get to take place in this one, which is pretty rare, and I'm pretty excited about. So I probably am going to be seeing some of these, and let me know if you're planning to watch any of these, and I most likely will post information about this on my Instagram feed, and links to that are in the podcast notes on my blog as well. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Links are also on the blog. Also, follow me on Instagram. I'm at moviespap, as in past and present. As always, I hope you will enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or present. And until next time, thanks for listening, and I hope you and yours have a safe and enjoyable Labor Day weekend.